The red and blue lights bounced off my garage door at 8:30 on a Sunday morning, and I knew the war was finally coming to my front lawn. Marlene Whitford stood dead center on my zoysia grass, one manicured finger pointed at my chest like a bayonet, while her 24-year-old son Connor smirked beside her. Half the cul-de-sac had already drifted out with coffee cups in hand, ready for the show. Marlene's voice carried the way only 6 years of unchallenged HOA presidency can train it to. This man assaulted my son. He's been threatening us for weeks. That car in his driveway probably isn't even his. I want him arrested right now. The two young patrol officers looked uncomfortable, hands resting near their belts, eyes flicking from Marlene to me and back again. What Marlene didn't know, what nobody in Willow Creek Estates knew, was that the gold badge locked in my office drawer read Deputy Chief Rick Callahan, badge number 001, and every cop in this county ultimately answered to me. Sometimes justice doesn't tiptoe in. Sometimes it rolls up with lights and sirens and body cameras already recording. 3 weeks earlier, I had still been the quiet new guy at 4127 Willow Creek Circle. After 22 decades running major crimes, and then administration for the county sheriff's office, I took early retirement and moved to this gated slice of Northern California heaven for one reason: peace. I told the neighbors I worked in city administration, kept my answers short, and spent my weekends doing what actually healed me, bringing my father's 1967 Mustang Fastback back to life. Pale metallic silver, black stripes, 289 V8, every single part either original or restored to factory spec. 3 years of nights and weekends, every dime of my hobby budget, every memory of my dad turning wrenches in the old Detroit garage poured into that car. That first Saturday, I had her out in the driveway, giving the final coat of wax the kind of slow circles my father taught me when I was 12. The hood gleamed like wet glass. I stepped back, hands on hips, feeling him standing right beside me the way he always did when something was finally finished right. That was when I noticed the woman watching from across the street. Early 50s, salon blonde hair, white tennis skirt, pink visor, sunglasses that cost more than most folks' car payments. She crossed the cul-de-sac with the measured stride of someone used to having the sidewalk cleared for her. She introduced herself as Marlene Whitford, president of the Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association. Her smile was all teeth and no warmth. Her eyes never left the Mustang. Quite an old vehicle, she said, sugarcoating the judgment. We do have standards here. Oil leaks, chipped paint, that sort of thing can hurt property values. I assured her the car was tighter than the day it left Dearborn, emissions perfect, no leaks, full documentation. She handed me a 3-ring binder thick enough to stop a bullet, 52 pages of covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and tapped one crimson nail on Section 19C. Vehicles older than 15 model years that, in the opinion of the Architectural Review Committee, detract from the community's aesthetic harmony must be garaged or properly covered at all times. Opinion of the committee. No objective standard. Just opinion. I had seen that language 100 times in shakedown scams dressed up as bylaws. I thanked her politely, watched her march back to her McMansion, and spent the rest of the day photographing every page and cross-checking it against California Civil Code. By supper, I already knew Section 19C was unenforceable garbage, but I also knew Marlene didn't care about the law. She cared about control. The campaign started small and polite, the way these things always do. A friendly reminder, email about visible vehicles. Then a formal violation notice, $100 per day unless the Mustang disappeared from sight within 72 hours. I answered every letter with the exact statute that made her rule illegal, attached photos, service records, smog certificates. She answered by doubling the fine and CCing the entire board. Neighbors started avoiding eye contact. A retired schoolteacher named Gloria slipped me a note one evening. She's done this before. People either pay or sell. Most sell. I thanked Gloria, told her I wasn't going anywhere, and quietly installed 4 more high-definition cameras that covered every inch of the street and both sidewalks. Week 2 brought the social media pile-on. Marlene posted carefully worded complaints about certain residents who refused to maintain the community's curb appeal, and attached a photo of my car with the license plate conveniently cropped out. The comments filled with flying monkeys who'd either been promised favors or were simply terrified of her. I screenshot everything. Week 3, she called an emergency HOA meeting with one agenda item: non-compliant vehicle at 4127 Willow Creek Circle. 43 people showed up. Marlene ran the meeting like a prosecutor. 3 of her loyalists gave tearful testimony about falling property values. I stood, laid out Civil Code 4710 in plain English, handed out copies, and suggested the board might want to consult counsel before levying another illegal fine. The vote to force me to garage the car passed 9 to 4 anyway. Daily fines jumped to $500. I recorded the whole thing legally, walked out without a word, and started the Mustang just to let that V8 rumble roll across the parking lot like a promise. I never moved the car. What I did do was finish my case file. Then Connor Whitford made his mistake. Late one Wednesday, I was reviewing reports in my study when the motion alert pinged. Camera 3 showed Connor, hoodie up, sliding a Slim Jim down my driver's side window. 30 seconds later, the dome light popped on. He was halfway into the seat, flashlight between his teeth, checking the ignition. I stepped outside calm as Sunday dinner. Evening, Connor. Step away from the vehicle. He jolted, banged his head on the roof, then recovered with that rich kid sneer. Mom says this car's an eyesore. I'm just helping the neighborhood. He actually shoulder-checked me on his way past, hard enough to count as assault, and strolled home like he'd done me a favor. I dialed 911, reported an attempted auto theft and assault, handed the responding deputies a thumb drive with 4K video and audio, and watched them drive straight to Marlene's door. Connor spent the night in holding. Marlene posted bail at dawn and started planning her final move. Sunday morning, she went nuclear. She and Connor marched across the street while I was washing the Mustang. She screamed loud enough for the whole loop to hear. Assault, threats, stolen property, the works. Then dialed 911 right in front of me, voice trembling like a soap opera victim. He's violent. I think he has a gun. Please hurry. Neighbors poured out. Phones came up. I stayed still, hands visible, and quietly called the direct line only command staff have. Captain, it's Rick Callahan. I've got a situation at home. 2 marked units arrived within 8 minutes. The lead officer, a sharp young sergeant named Morales, took one look at me, did the fastest double take I've ever seen, and went from ready to draw to deer in headlights. Deputy Chief Callahan? Sir. The second officer, Ramirez, snapped to the same realization a half-second later. Marlene's mouth actually fell open. Connor took one step backward and looked like he might bolt. I produced my credentials, slow and deliberate, handed them to Morales, then turned to the growing crowd. Officers, I'd like to file formal complaints. Wednesday night, this young man attempted to steal my vehicle and committed simple assault when confronted. Full video and audio. This morning, these 2 individuals filed a false police report claiming I'm armed and dangerous. Also on video, multiple neighbors recorded the entire exchange. Marlene tried to interrupt, voice cracking. You can't use your job to. Ma'am, Morales cut in, calm but firm. You just told dispatch a ranking sheriff's commander was armed and threatening your life. That's a serious felony if it's not true. Within 90 minutes, sergeants, lieutenants, and the watch commander were on scene. Connor was rearrested on the lawn. Marlene was read her rights in her own driveway, while half the neighborhood filmed it in 4K. The fallout was swift and total. Connor took a plea. Guilty to attempted grand theft auto and misdemeanor assault. 200 hours community service, served at the Sheriff's Youth Outreach Center, naturally, $6,000 restitution, 2 years formal probation. Marlene was charged with filing a false police report and misuse of 911. The DA added civil rights violations when 23 families came forward with years of documented harassment. She pleaded to a misdemeanor, paid $18,000 in fines, 120 hours picking up highway trash in an orange vest, and a 5-year ban from any HOA office in the state. The board held an emergency election the next week. Marlene was removed unanimously. They hired an independent attorney who threw out the entire 52-page rulebook and replaced it with a 19-page document that actually followed California law. Fines were refunded, liens released, apologies mailed. These days I still wash the Mustang in the driveway most Sundays. Only now people stop to talk instead of scurrying past. Kids ask questions about carburetors. Dads bring lawn chairs and cold drinks. Somebody started a classic car coffee meet the first Saturday of every month. 12 cars last count, all parked in driveways, none of them ticketed. Connor finished his hours, kept his head down, and from what I hear is actually trying to act like a decent human being. Marlene sold the house 6 months later and moved to Arizona. Nobody waved goodbye. The Mustang still sits right where it belongs, catching the morning sun the way my dad always said it should. Some battles you win with guns and badges. Others you win with cameras, patience, and the absolute refusal to let a bully mistake your silence for surrender. I protected what was mine the right way, and an entire neighborhood learned that the law works when somebody finally has the evidence and the backbone to make it work. So tell me in the comments, have you ever been pushed to the wall by an HOA, a bossy neighbor, or someone who thought their little patch of power made them untouchable? Did you fold, or did you stand your ground? And bigger question, when injustice shows up at your door, where do you personally draw the line between turning the other cheek and fighting back? Drop your stories below. I read every single one.